Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I have a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today is episode 187 of Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/2for1 studios. Guys, it's the best place to consume all the content, and if you haven't already, let's be honest, you probably have not. We are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 Eastkill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. They have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow.
Kapow. Daniel, that was another banger opening right there. That one came out
Yeah.
like butter.
It
Yeah,
was.
that was nice. Felt good.
Smooth.
Listeners, it's 187, and we're taking a back seat to some of the reviews, to some of the other stuff, just also because we haven't watched everything, I think. So I know I have not, Daniel.
No.
I've kind of fallen off Monarch, which
Yep.
kind of tells you a little bit
Yep.
about that, I guess.
Yep.
And I'm starting season 1 of Reacher again,
Okay.
so I can
Okay.
watch season 2 with Kimberly. So we're going through that. And we're here to talk about primarily Jonathan Majors and the MCU. And I think some of this conversation will be a lot of repeat we've had in the past,
Yeah.
but I do think there'll be some maybe room for speculation, especially in
Sure.
regards to MCU. So our listeners don't know, Jonathan Majors was found guilty of 2 of the 4 charges that he had. His court case, I think, all the way from his initial arrest back in March of 2023. So it's been a long time coming up on a year now since that incident. And he finally had his day in court. And yeah, again, he was, it was probably of the 4, it was the 2 lesser charges,
Sure.
but 2 charges nonetheless. And, I think within an hour, I don't think Disney actually reported it. It was just all these other reputable sources come out and said, okay,
Yeah.
our contacts say now it's official. Jonathan Majors has been fired from the MCU / as Kang the Conqueror. Another interesting tidbit is there's a movie he has coming out where he's like a bodybuilder. I can't think of the name of the movie. It's American something or
Okay.
I can't think. Yeah, he's like a really in shape bodybuilder or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But they pulled that from its a release a while back, and I think Disney technically owns it through Fox Searchlight,
Gotcha.
that small or whatever. So they've also pulled that. We don't know when that's coming out. So yeah, we don't have our Kang the Conqueror anymore. So Daniel, a few questions kind of going into this.
Mm-hmm.
One, should Marvel recast Kang the Conqueror? And if so, who? Who's some options for you? And then 2, should we just go on to the next person, or have we invested that much into this character where we can still kind of bring that back and kind of tie off those loose ends, or what? I mean, how do you feel about all this?
Man, it's so complicated, right? I think it's not surprising that they let go Jonathan Majors after this verdict. In fact, I think there was part of me that wondered if they would do it even if he was cleared. You know what I mean? There's just so much baggage around him. And it seems like, rightfully so, he was convicted. And so, it's just so complicated because I think, for one, you're right. Kang hasn't been the most exciting part of the MCU. Not that he's been bad. I think, the times we've seen Jonathan Majors in the role, he's actually been brilliant in the role. But there still isn't quite compared to Thanos, and maybe this is more of a testament of just how the MCU is doing right now. We're just not building the hype towards Kang like I hoped we would, or like we thought we might, right? And so I do see maybe the logic behind the idea of saying, well, let's just move on to Doom, right? Who would be probably the next logical person. I think, I don't know if it's been confirmed, but I did see that somewhere that like that internally they're now referencing Kang Dynasty as Avengers 5 now. That and who knows if that's, I mean, that's like that's like a rumor about what's happening in offices unofficially. So like there's so much room for like that just being bullshit, right? But I think it is this thing where I think they've got to be at least considering it, right? I think I hope they don't. I would rather them recast because to me, there's almost this element of it makes the universe as a whole feel smaller in a way. If like we've got this Kang character who's this big deal, we've been playing him all up. All these movies and TV shows have been building him up as a character. And now because of a real life thing that happens outside of the world of the MCU, we're shifting to a different we're changing plans and we're kind of shoving this character aside and I guess acting like well, he wasn't all he was cracked up to be, or I don't even know what kind of internal logic they would use to make that feel work. I mean, I don't know if there is one that works great for making that transition feel good. And so, like, I think I would rather them recast just because there's a lot of good actors that could do that role. It's not like a role where I'm like, well, it's not like RDJ as Iron Man, and it's like, well, there's no one else, kind of for me. And like I said, I just think if they allow it to be like, okay, well, the actor that played this is we're not going to use him anymore, so let's just change the scripts, let's change the story of the MCU. To me, that just feels like I'd like the MCU to be bigger than any one actor, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And to me, this feels a little bit like I don't know, it just feels a little bit, I guess, wishy-washy, and I guess like it just, like I said, it just kind of makes it feel smaller. And I guess especially when we're dealing with a character like Kang, who his thing is he has variants. There, you've already got the in-universe explanation kind of ready for you. Yeah, but again, it's so complicated. I mean, like, I did see that a funny meme said like Marvel has the opportunity to do the funniest thing, which is cast Terrence Howard as the new Kang. Which would be really freaking funny and like not in maybe a universe way, but in kind of a meta way. But yeah, I mean, it's just so complicated that I don't know which one they're gonna do. I know what I prefer, but at the same time, if they can pivot to Doctor Doom and just make it amazing, if it's good enough, I won't care. If that makes sense, if they pivot, if we get a really kick-ass Doom, maybe Mads Mikkelsen or who was the other guy that we saw floated around recently? It was I can't remember, but if you get a really solid actor in there and then you just start making really great Doctor Doom stories, I mean, once I'm in, I'm in. You know what I mean? And if you suck me into that plot line and you do it well, it can work. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
First off, I mean, I don't want Mads to be Doctor Doom just for the fact that he was
Sure.
the bad guy in Doctor Strange 1, just for that fact, which
It was
he
the, it,
feels very wasted now that when you have the option of Doom, right? But um,
was it
I don't know.
it wasn't Colin Firth, was it? It was someone. Was it someone from the Kingsman, the three? I thought.
Oh,
Oh,
Kingsman. I mean,
it's
Pedro Pas. There was kind of rumor that
no, no,
Pedro
no, no,
could be
no, no,
Doctor
no.
Doom, and then it was like now he's unofficially
Ralph
cast
Fiennes.
as.
Ralph Fiennes.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's
That
perfect.
that's perfect. That's
That's
absolute.
perfect.
Like he just is everything that role needs to be.
Yeah, and then again, I can not. Maybe I don't feel bad. I don't know, but you look at like Voldemort, and then Mads Mikkelsen's always cast as the villain. You kind of wonder, do they want to do this? Maybe they don't care. Maybe they just want the paycheck. I feel
I
like
mean,
Ralph Fiennes doesn't want to be typecast, but also I would. I mean, I'm thinking Voldemort's like very mustache twirly. Like he doesn't have any type
sure,
of substance, really, in my opinion.
sure.
And it's great for that character, but I think Doctor Doom has a lot of potential to kind of get a little more deeper. And
Complex. Yeah.
he's like a character who wants to be left alone, in my opinion, and wants to rule over his people. He's feel very entitled, but it's not.
Right.
But like he feels like he is doing it for the greater good, where
He
Voldemort
sees
is
himself
doing
as
it
a good
for,
guy. Yeah.
yeah, Voldemort's like just more, I'm bad and this is great to be
Sure.
bad. Um, no, going back to Jonathan Majors in the beginning, yeah. So it's complicated, as you said earlier. I'm not. Some people are just kind of, first of all, some people are saying like the way Loki season 2 ended, and if you haven't seen that, spoilers, and you probably should go watch that show. The way that show ended, that they kind of wrapped up the Kang storyline there. I can see that point of view because the TVA is now kind of operating on a basis of like, hey, we are going throughout the multiverse to kind of trap or imprison or to stop these Kang variants. But to me, there wasn't a fine enough bow with that to go that route. To me, it just
Yeah.
seems like that, like again, what we thought happened in season one happened officially in season two, where now the multiverse is born
Right.
finally.
Right.
And now the things like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, all these things that we've seen with that
Right.
the Kang or whatever, now those things are happening, and like now that's the timeline we're in. So to me, if anything, Loki season two just started the actual Kang war. Like that was what
Sure.
actually started the chain of events. So I'm not convinced that you can obviously say, yeah, the TVA did it. Like they just started, but it
Well,
seems pretty fucking lame to me.
and in some ways, Loki did fix the problem Sophie created, right? Like he is the one now holding all the timelines that were like unleashed when Sophie killed He Who Remains, right?
Yeah, but but that is
Well, and let me
all
just
the
throw,
timelines with Kangs in there. So the only
yeah,
way to defeat Kang, in my opinion, again, was set up with Doctor Strange 2, which is to burn him out of time, is
sure.
to burn him like the Darkhold through
Now,
all the multiverse.
I'm going to just throw something out there, and I think it's not that I'm a fan of this idea, but I could almost see it plausible. Okay. Um, Kevin Spacey is making an acting comeback in Europe after everything he did.
Go on. Sorry, what a
Okay,
choice. I don't know what you're
I mean,
choosing for, but
I'm
go
going to
on.
the extreme. I'm going to the extreme of like
Oh
people
my
that are
God, there's
making
no way.
comebacks from. Now, listen. I mean, most of America's not into it, but I mean, like he's being applauded at Cannes. You know what I mean? Like there, he is
Kevin
finding
Spacey
people.
is?
Yeah. This was somewhat recent, and he's like got movies in the works now over there. And so like
Wow.
what I'm saying is like what Jonathan Majors did, despicable. Now it does look like there was some wrong on both sides. You know what I mean? And I will say that, from my very limited life experience, it does seem that most toxic relationships, there's toxicity from both partners. There's not just usually one horribly toxic partner and one perfectly squeaky clean saint. It just doesn't really work like that. And so I guess what am I saying is like, I mean, of all the things that other actors have come back from in terms of PR disasters, right? This doesn't feel that big. What feels big about it is that he was this rising star who was becoming like, a new Michael B. Jordan, or this like guy that's casted in everything in these
Dude,
powerful, strong leading
he was gonna
roles.
be way bigger than Michael B. Jordan.
Sure, I would agree with that. I
There's
mean, like,
no question about it.
yeah, and so I think the staggeringness of this is that it's like he was not even at the height of his career, but he was like skyrocketing towards that. And that's where it's like, holy shit, he threw it away. Now, what happens in 2 to 3 years when he's done a lot of, therapy, or has, hired a new PR team, and like, he's coming back relaunching himself as like the
Well, he's gonna
sensitive
appeal. He's gonna
Jonathan
appeal, first of all,
Majors.
this right here. He's gonna appeal his case, which
Sure, but
they
even
mostly
beyond
always
that, his
do.
his PR is like, even if he wins the appeal, it's still going to be like, yeah, but come on, man, no one wants to work with you. But maybe in truth, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is there's a version of this where they pivot to Doctor Doom and they give us a throwaway line about Kang, and then he comes back later. And it's Jonathan Majors again.
Yeah.
And like it's like 3 to 4 years later when he's kind of resurrected his PR image. Like, I can see that happening. Do I think it's a little scummy? And like, would it give me a bad taste in my mouth a little bit? Probably. Is Disney willing to do that? I don't know. He would have to like really, really rebrand himself well. But like, there's almost a version where I'm like, that could happen. I
Well, I've got
mean,
answers for all of this.
okay, yeah.
And I think these are correct. Again, I do this a lot on the pod. I say like, here's what's going to happen, Daniel, and then I'm totally wrong. But I kind of believe this. So first of all, I think, it's complicated. I don't want to be the guy that's on record saying like what Jonathan Majors did or didn't do is comparable to what these other people
Sure.
did or didn't do, because I don't want
Sure.
that can of worms. I will go on record and saying that from what I understand, like again, the two of the four charges, one of the charges is like he didn't purposely try to hurt her. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like it was negligence on his part
Right.
that
Right.
ended up her getting hurt. Not excusing it. That's just what the
Yes.
verdict was, right?
Right.
And so I think you're right in saying that, again, maybe I am going to go on record and say it. This doesn't feel as bad as maybe some other things where people have come back from, like Mel Gibson
I mean,
or
to
Kevin
be honest,
Spacey.
it's
I didn't
yeah,
know. Yeah,
it's not. He hasn't, at least on. I mean, the things that came out about Kevin Spacey, and they were like over, like multiple accusers over
it's pretty
multiple
wild.
decades. You know what I mean? It was revealed that he had a pattern of being a molester. You know what I'm saying? And so
Oh
like
yeah, yeah. Well, I
that is
mean,
like that feels like you can't ever come back from that to me.
here's another thing
You know?
too, and here's another example. I'm not getting political. This is just I'm talking facts here. Donald Trump, former President Donald
Sure.
Trump,
Yeah.
he can do almost no wrong in some people's eyes and
Right.
get chance after chance. Not even a chance would imply that he lost favor, right? So
Right.
he's like the ultimate cockroach, right? He can just and I mean not getting political. I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
truth. He probably would commend himself for it, and hey, he probably should be commended. Like he has the ability to survive like no one else I've ever seen.
Sure.
So people, especially in Hollywood, love a comeback story. I think you're right
Right.
on that front, and I don't think this is the end of Jonathan Major's career at
He's so
all.
young, man. Again, if he's uh, the
Yeah,
memory of
I
the
don't think
press
that.
is short
Yeah.
anyway. If he's just quiet for a couple years and then starts this slow, like taking interviews, talking about his anger management issues and what he's done to address that, talking
Oh,
about how he's, you know what I mean? There's like, you know,
right now he
there's a
and
very plausible way he comes back to his career, and maybe, and who knows, maybe he doesn't reach the heights he could have, but at the same time, I could see him still reaching those heights because
dude.
he's really
Okay,
talented, and you know,
here's how it works. Like his PR team, hopefully, were already discussing this 8 months
oh
ago. Like
yeah,
when we
yeah,
lose, what's the apology tour, right? How are we going to
right,
fix this?
and
Which
it's
is
yeah.
disingenuous, but that's what happens. Like
And
it's
it's
just I
the
can't
reality.
get around it.
This isn't. I want to say like this isn't me saying what I think should happen, or I'm
Right,
happy this is happening, or I
right.
approve of the system. I'm just talking about what I see happening in Hollywood, which is these things can come out, and they have come out about many stars. I mean, what was the last guy? What was that one guy that was like? Was he like convicted of cannibalism? I can't even remember. Was it?
Oh, Arnie Hammer, he's still
Yes.
in
Now
jail.
he's still. Now people
He's
are
still in
like,
Hollywood jail and probably will be for a
you eat
long
another
time.
human. Maybe that's beyond our
Maybe
realm of
that's
like
the line that
acceptance.
Hollywood draws is eating humans. Maybe that's the line.
That's
But
we can't cross that one. You can
But
do
look at Mel
everything but
Gibson, right? I mean,
cannibalism.
Mel Gibson was
Yeah,
like, you couldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole in Hollywood. And then he comes out with Hacksaw Ridge and
yeah,
he's nominated for Best Director at the Academy Awards. And then now he's
yeah.
back on panels talking to other directors on
Well, and
Variety on
he's
YouTube.
we're doing the Passion of the Christ too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, like,
Yeah, no, yeah, I get it. Yeah,
yeah,
no, you're right,
time
and like,
heals all wounds,
and he,
especially in Hollywood.
and to a degree, and I think this is probably fucked up, but I do think there's an atmosphere of Hollywood where like racism is kind of worse than domestic violence. Kind of like I like, and again, this is not me saying I like this or the way it is, or I'm comparing these two like crimes and saying, well, this one's obviously better than. I'm just saying when I the temperature that I read from the climate is that doing what Mel Gibson did seemed like a bigger deal than what Jonathan Majors has been accused of, right? And like at least how people talk about it, how people describe it. When people talk about Jonathan Majors right now, like the discussion I'm seeing online is like, what an idiot. He just like fumbled a giant bag of cat, like he just fumbled generational wealth. Right. It's kind of this like the describement is like this guy's an idiot. You know, he couldn't, you know, control himself long enough to be rich, or like, you know, he's in this like, you know, he's in this, you know, a
Sure.
situation that everyone or every actor would love to be in, and he can't, you know, keep his anger in check. What an idiot. Versus like, wow, Mel Gibson is a racist. That's who he is. He fundamentally
Right.
does these things. And like, you know, again,
Well,
I'm
I
not
see
passing
lots of
judgment,
defenders
but
for majors online, and part
okay.
of that
I
may
haven't
be
seen
they
a lot.
just maybe it's just because they want to see him be in the MCU and they don't care
Sure.
about the actual issues. You know, I mean, but I have seen throughout the, the various comic book websites I'm on, again, like, I see both sides in terms of comments, right? I see like
Sure.
people like, oh, he's dumb. like, oh, this, I'm Team Majors, which is I think is, again, like it's just
I
kind of
haven't seen
like
that. That sounds oof.
I've
Yeah.
literally seen that, I why would you put that on the internet? But
That just tells me that you might also be a domestic abuser.
yeah,
That's
you
my
know,
first reaction to anyone saying
yeah.
that.
And again, I think steps for him. He'll appeal it. He may get another court case. He got really screwed up with in the court case, particularly where they were showing texts from
I saw that.
that were not about this particular incident, right?
Right.
They were shown to obviously
Right.
paint him in a different light for the jury to paint this incident, but
But at the same
that
time, Jonah Hill was in the spotlight maybe 2 months ago about how he was like basically a manipulative bastard to his girlfriends. Like they were
really,
like, oh yeah, they were like ex-girlfriends were releasing all these messages where like he's just like
wow, I
he's
didn't
the
even hear
kind
about
of
it.
guy that like is like, why would you embarrass me like that in front of my friends? Like that kind of manipulative like bastard.
Wow,
Like where he's always kind of playing the sympathy card, but he's always basically like trying to control people and being like, why would you like asking girlfriends like, why are you posting pictures of yourself in bikinis on social media? Like that kind of like just controlling asshole that isn't necessarily illegal but is also gross as fuck and like paints,
yeah,
especially when he's been coming out with this, like he did a documentary about his therapist, for
oh yeah,
Netflix and
yeah, yeah,
about mental
yeah.
health, and like and then this comes out and we're like, okay, maybe this guy isn't
Well, it
the kind
tells
of
you
pretty
that
picture he
they're,
paints, but that's already gone. That discussion
yeah, I didn't
has
even hear about it.
disappeared from the
Yeah.
zeitgeist at this point. And so like and then because there was all this stuff that came out with Jonathan Majors like right after the accusation, and like all these unnamed sources about people that he's like the worst person to work with on set. He was a jerk in college. No one liked him. He was abusive, all these kinds of things. And like
It's hard to know. It's
there are
hard to know.
people like that everywhere in Hollywood.
Well,
Like
yeah,
to a
there's
certain
yeah,
degree,
but
the
I'm
the
not trying to
system
defend him.
favors no, but to a certain degree, the system favors narcissistic controlling people. Like
Well, I'm not going to go and say that he is. I don't. I wasn't there. I don't know.
sure. I guess what I'm saying is
I
like
do think the texts that we were given, which were also redacted, and they were pieces of
right,
bigger conversations. So
right.
even then, we don't have the full story. Those didn't make him look good at all, in my opinion.
No, but
Obviously,
they didn't make him look unhireable, if that makes sense. It looks
right.
bad. It looks bad, but that level of shit comes out about actors all the fucking time, and directors and
Yeah.
producers and all that, and
Well,
none of
just
it.
people, really. I mean,
Right,
like,
but like in terms of like
yeah.
cancel culture, bullshit, whatever you want to talk about, like the online discourse, that stuff comes out all the time, and then it's gone in a week.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, overall, I think we've kind of settled that where I
yeah,
think Jonathan, he's not done. He's not done with his
no,
career, but
unless he majorly fucks up the redemption course. I mean, like he can still fuck it up,
well,
but
yeah,
like he, if he's quiet, a little quiet little saint for a couple years, and then like you said, starts the redemption tour, maybe he makes a
well,
documentary about his fucking therapist or some shit. I don't know, but
yeah,
like you're
I don't
just
know.
saying, like,
Who knows? I mean, again, we'll see what happens in the next 6 months to a year. Will be he may be quiet, may not.
yeah,
That movie there was getting Oscar buzz for his performance,
okay,
which won't happen now because
no,
even if he deserved it on an acting
right,
performance level, they wouldn't give it to him based on this incident.
right,
But to go back to our MCU
sure,
question here,
sure, sure,
I think for one, I don't think they're going to kill the Kang character. I don't think Loki season two, like some people have said, I don't think that actually. I think it just made the can of worms bigger for Kang,
sure,
in my opinion. And I also think they're going to recast Kang. I think that he'll be around. They're calling it Avengers 5 internally from reports. They may. I think there's a good chance it could be rebranded as Avengers Secret Wars Part 1 and then Secret Wars
sure.
Part 2. Kind of like we do with Infinity War, whatever. We'll see what happens there. Um, I think
I mean,
I think he's
again,
gonna
we
be
talked
recast.
about there's a pivot. There's a pivot they could do where Kang or where Doctor Doom is a Kang variant.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so like and
You
we've
have
talked
him
about
come
that
in. I mean,
extensively.
again, if you want to be like if you want to like get everyone on board instantly,
Yeah.
is you get Denzel Washington as Doctor Doom. You have him come in and he blows away all the other Kangs, which I don't know. I mean, maybe it's
Interesting.
CGI. It's an army of Kangs. They probably shot
Sure.
tons of footage of Jonathan Majors acting like a
Sure.
fool or something. you have that come in, and it's like, it's like the hill thing in wrestling, right? You have a guy come in and kicks the most powerful guy's ass, and all of a sudden you're the most powerful guy by virtue of kicking that
Right,
guy's ass.
right, right.
So, which is what Thanos did to Hulk, right? Thanos
Exactly.
comes
Yeah,
in
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
karate
yeah.
chops Hulk, and now he's the strongest.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the route you go. Well, whether Denzel would want to do it or not, it's a whole other debate.
Yeah.
Um, I don't. I think he would entertain it because I think Denzel likes being like most movie stars. I
Yeah.
think they like being a star, a movie star, and I think
Yeah. I
he
mean, this
hasn't
would be
had that
one
level.
giant ass bag like towards the end of his career in terms of
Oh, it'd
just,
be
the
huge.
payday.
Yeah,
Because if
and
you're going to
yeah,
get him, you're going to have to
yeah,
pay. I mean, you may be paying above or at the RDJ levels just because you're getting a
yeah.
multi Academy Award winner.
Well, he's
Um,
yeah, he's the kind of actor that almost no matter what he does performance wise, he's going to get
yes,
praised for it because he's that
yes,
good. You know what I'm
yes,
saying? Like,
yes,
so I think like it's I don't know. And here's the thing too is that we've established in the MCU on multiple occasions, specifically with Spider-Man, specifically
yeah,
with Loki, that there's variants that don't look all the same, right? So
right, right.
you have so far all the Kangs look the same. Maybe they don't all look the same.
Right. Yeah,
So I think
and
that's your
I think you're right. I
that's your
mean,
point.
my guess is I do think, like I said, there's a chance. I don't think they just drop him. I don't think they just say, "Oh, remember that last episode of Loki? Well, what actually happened is that ended the Kane saga." Like, I think that's just cheap and like that's just like the worst option that will leave the fans the least satisfied in terms of how they pivot. I do think there's a chance that they pivot to Doom as a, well, he's a Kang variant and he's the ultimate Kang variant. He killed them all, like recasting at that point. Or I do still think there's a chance they pivot to Doom and they put Kang on pause. They it's a kind of, well, we held him back for now. We think he's dealt with, and then he comes back at a later date as like a different thing. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I do find it unlikely that I don't know. To me, I just don't know if they'll just recast and keep the same storyline going. That maybe seems the least likely to me, where they just swap a different actor in there and don't change the plan. I don't know if I can believe
Well,
that
I
necessarily.
think I think there's multiple things happening. I think kind of like Civil War, if you remember, they had like two different versions of the
Yeah.
script, right? Where they
Right.
had if the Sony deal goes through, they have Spider-Man. If it doesn't go through, they don't
Right.
have
Right.
Spider-Man in the movie.
Right.
Obviously, Kang would be more important to the movie, but I think maybe because this happened all at the same time, right? Ant-Man came out and this happened. They've had
Yeah.
7 or 8 months now where I mean, and also they got to think they fired the guy who wrote Ant-Man who was writing Avengers 5. They fired him.
Right.
They got Michael Waldron now writing both Avengers 5 and Secret Wars. And I think and they also got rid of Daniel Destin, who was who directed Shang-Chi and then who was going to direct Kang
Okay.
Dynasty. They got rid of him. We don't know the director yet. This two-parter or whatever this Avengers thing is. And it's now been pushed back to 2026 and
Right.
2027 for these two parts. They're supposed to be shooting early next year, I guess, I suppose,
Hmm.
um, for Avengers 5. I don't
Yeah.
know if
I
that's going
don't.
to happen, but
I feel like. Yeah. I don't know.
they've had tons of time. Well, I mean, there's also the writer strikes. Maybe they didn't. So Marvel's been hit with all kinds of things lately. Um, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think they're going to figure it out. I think
Yeah.
that again. I think they're going to finish Kang. This is kind of all leading up to a reboot or a soft reboot where we're going to get the X-Men and all these other things
Right.
happening. So, yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, and again, the one movie coming out next year is Deadpool 3. And I mean, there's so many rumors about what, like, it's turning into, this is a major Marvel movie, right? Like it's kind of like big universe level shit will go down. There will be there it kind of feels like there will be universe consequences to whatever the events of Deadpool 3 are, like whether it's just pulling in characters from other universes and now they're in the MCU now, or who knows what else. You know what I mean? Um, I mean, I could, I mean, and I know they're in the middle of filming that right now, right? We've been seeing lots of set photos and which look cool and stuff. But I mean, there's a chance that they use that movie to make some moves here, right? I mean, I could see that a little bit, just because it already is this multiversal universe hopping, whatever it is, and like if there are, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we know that that's the only movie coming out next year, and then we've got like 4 or 5 TV shows, but like 2 of them are cartoons, and so kind of in their own bubble universe, it kind of seems. Um,
Yeah.
there's not a lot other than Deadpool 3. There's not a lot of like MCU-ness happening before we get to those Avengers 5 and 6 years.
Well, I'm not convinced yet that everything has been announced that's going to lead into Avengers 5 for film wise.
Fair.
I
Yeah.
also I also think that because they kind of announced just like Fantastic Four, and then those two movies is like Phase 6 basically. And I know
Right.
there's
Yeah.
more. There's going
X-Men.
to be a movie. Well, not X-Men. I think X-Men will be after. I think Secret Wars will be the send off for Foxmen, and I think
Okay.
with Hugh Jackman basically another send
Yeah.
off for Hugh Jackman, and then I think X-Men will come because they're just now got a writer for that, so I think they're hiring
Yeah.
writers. That's post Secret Wars stuff to me. You might see who the new Wolverine is or whatever in Secret Wars or Deadpool 3. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be huge ramifications. I think other than bringing those characters into the MCU, other than just kind of exploring the multiverse again. There was like a quote been kind of going around, and Kevin Feige, when he was announcing Phase 5 and 6, he was like, "Look, we've been just doing a lot of universe building in terms of characters. There's going to be a point, a shift where we start hammering hard, like what this phase is about, leading into Avengers 5 and Avengers 6. I think the start of that was potentially Ant-Man. I don't think it hit like they wanted to for obvious reasons. The Marvels was you haven't seen it yet. I've seen it twice. It's their biggest flop of all time, and one of the
Financially, yeah.
biggest superhero flops of all time.
It does look like Aquaman 2 may beat it to that punch, though.
It might. I can't. I watch it tomorrow. So
Okay, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
like when I saw the rumor, it was like they're not doing a red carpet premiere for the movie at all.
it wasn't a rumor. They just didn't do
No,
one.
no, right, right, yeah. And then they were doing like this like kind of small cast and crew party. I'm just like, that's not ideal.
Yeah, and this isn't a bad thing. I just thought this was humorous where they were giving out like drinks, but they were in frozen glasses.
Yeah, which I'm like, that would feel awful to hold. Like I would just
Right? It's gonna melt in your hands. Can you just
bring
imagine
mittens to
like
drink with.
you're Jason Momoa and your drink's melting in your hands and you're not getting a roll I don't know. I mean, and
Yeah,
there's
that's a way to get frostbite while drinking, which I guess
yeah,
that's an
yeah.
appeal to someone.
I'm sure someone Arnie Hammer or something. So
Yeah.
I think
You're
that's
drunk
also
enough if you can't feel the glass anymore.
yeah, that's also a fascinating conversation, which I can't wait to talk about. Hopefully, you'll
Oh
watch
yeah,
it at some point.
yeah,
You need to watch
yeah.
Blue Beetle,
I know.
Shazam 2, and Aquaman
Those
2.
are on Max now, which may become Paramount Max soon. Who the fuck
Yeah,
knows?
do you want to talk about that? I mean, what do
I
you feel
mean,
about that?
God, I don't. I mean, I'm at the point where I don't know if Warner Brothers is going to be around in a year. I mean, there was rumors of there was
I think it'd be the other way
unsubstantiated
around.
rumors of bankruptcy. They were considering bankruptcy, or like there was like some rumor that like there's a 60% chance Warner Brothers files bankruptcy, which I think got debunked very fast because it wasn't coming from anywhere credible. I mean, it makes sense because it just seems like we're in the era of streamer consolidation. I mean, I would assume that maybe in 5 years there's 2 streamers, maybe 3. You know what I
I
mean?
hope so, dude.
Disney,
Make it cheaper for me.
Netflix, and Amazon / Warner Brothers / Paramount. I don't know
Yeah.
who consolidates the rest of them, but yeah. Well, the thing is, it won't be cheaper because they'll upcharge all of those. That you'll be paying more for
Yeah, I
paying
know.
for 3 than you would be for paying 6 individually.
As soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like,
Yeah,
I think it's a horrible idea in terms of competition, and
yeah.
I don't like one
We're just
studio.
recreating the cable situation and the cable bubble,
yeah.
essentially. Where
Well, I'm just talking about even just theaters, like having,
oh
what,
yeah,
what does that mean? Are they still going to produce the same amount of movies every year that Paramount was? And then all, what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it seems I mean, part of it too was Disney was still trying to figure out, they were working through the acquisition of Fox, and then, you know, we're just now going to start seeing in the next year or two movies like a new Alien movie comes out next
right.
year.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's Fede Alvarez who directed Evil Dead, the
Okay.
reboot Evil Dead, and then he also directed something else. Apparently, it's pretty good. It's the rumor, and so like we're finally starting to get those Fox properties kind of
Right.
coming out, but new versions of them. But I don't know. I don't like my initial gut reaction is no,
Yeah,
bad
right.
idea.
Well, I mean, for one, just the fact that we're gonna rebrand Max again. You know what I mean? Like,
I think this is Warner Brothers would be eating Paramount. I don't think it's the other way
a
around.
merger.
Warner Brothers
They said merger.
it's merging, but Warner Brothers is way bigger. than
Sure.
Paramount.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
I
I've been
think
watching
it's
Succession lately, by the way. We're like, we just started season 4, so we're on the last season.
wow,
Yeah, no, we're rifing through it.
it's phenomenal,
It's
dude.
phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So I guess I'm kind of in this, like, I've got all this like giant
Oh
corporations
yeah.
merging kind of like in
Dude, I'm
my
so
mind.
happy you're
And
watching it. I
oh,
didn't think you were going to based on our conversations,
yeah, I
but I
mean,
can't wait to hear how you feel about the end.
I
So,
hear, yeah, I know there's like a giant twist, like episode 3 of the last season or something like.
oh yeah, yeah, there
And
is.
so
Yeah.
like I'm looking forward to that, and then I'm just, for one, it's fucking HBO at the top of their game. So
It's
it's
a
just the writing is unparalleled.
it's
For
crazy how good that show is. Like
It
in the
is. It is. Like
writing.
at times it feels like a Sorkin, like how everyone's talking over each other and like there's just
Oh
so much
man.
going on. But then like when they get real, like it's got more heart than Sorkin usually is good at
Yeah.
doing. And I feel like it's got, I mean, like, yeah, it's phenomenal. But
Yeah, I
also
think
like the
episode
art,
3 or 4, dude, there's like
like
an
this, like,
episode in there that's gonna be
yeah, I know that's like kind of, there's like a before and
yeah,
after that episode for kind of the show.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
assuming someone dies. That seems like the obvious thing. But we'll
You
see.
gotta watch it. I
Um,
mean, well, I was at Barnes and Noble a month or so ago, and they had the higher season 4 in
okay.
screenplay format, and
Oh,
I just
interesting.
pulled it out and started reading it because I was like, I need to
Yeah.
see how this guy writes,
Yeah.
and it's just like how they talk. It's like, how's this? Like, I couldn't do that. I don't think
No, I
I'm
mean, it has to be
there.
someone that has a, like an intimate knowledge of that type of culture and
Well,
that
just
world. And
even
like,
the expediency and like how it's just crazy. It's
it
crazy.
is. Yeah. It's fucking amazing. I hope that, I'm blanking on his name that plays Kendall Roy. I hope he gets an award because I feel like he is, uh, he's, I mean,
Dude, the
I
last
think the
season,
guy that
dude.
plays Logan is amazing, but I think to me, Kendall has shown the most range of just where everywhere he's gone on this show, of being like top to bottom to middle to top to, he's just like, he's had
He's
this
got the
roller coaster story
he's
that's
the most
just,
fascinating personality of like how when he like does these press events, whatever he's like trying to be the hip guy, hip
yeah,
CEO
no,
guy,
yeah,
and it's
it's
just
done
like
so well because it feels so cringy in the right way.
it feels exactly like that person exists. You
Oh, it
know, like it
does. Yeah,
yeah.
all of these people feel like real people that
Oh
actually
yeah.
exist. Like it feels like we're
Yeah.
watching like the Murdoch family that like owned Fox or
Oh
something,
yeah.
right? Anyway, yeah,
Well, that's
the
great. I didn't know we
Succession
had
is
a little
amazing.
I didn't know
Which
we had a little
also, I'm like
succession
now
section today.
Jeremy Strong could do a Doctor Doom. Fuck, he could do a young Doctor Doom.
Is he
Kindle,
oh Kindle. Oh yeah.
he could do a young Doctor Doom.
Well,
Like
I
if they're
think
going younger.
I want to say who's the sister's husband. I can't think of his name.
All I know is that he played Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice, and Catherine brings it up all the time.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
he was
Well,
Mr.
I
Which is
think
hilarious. He plays this like posh, like
yeah,
romantic character, and then he's like, I mean, he's one of my favorite
he's
characters.
he's perfect in the show. But I think he's in Captain America 4. Don't quote me on that. I think he's
Okay,
cast as some
okay.
role in that movie, like
Um,
a FBI government character or something.
Let me find
I
his
need to look it.
face.
I need to look it up. I could be totally wrong on that too.
Matthew McFadden.
Matthew McFadden. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. Um, let's see. I could have swore he was cast. I'm looking up viewers, listeners. Maybe not. Maybe not. I'm making
major
it
role
up.
teased in Deadpool 3.
Oh, okay. It's Deadpool 3. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So I
Okay,
knew there was some Marvel movie coming out, and yeah, okay. So it was supposed to be next year. Was Captain America? So that's why I was getting confused. So yeah, it's next year. Deadpool 3. He's going to be in that. We don't know who he's playing. Fascinating.
yeah,
Anyway,
he's
Daniel,
wonderful. He's great.
yeah, they're all wonderful. Let's get back to, I guess, last question to kind of end
Yeah,
this. This is our end of our normal podcast this year. Next week on Christmas, viewers, you get one more dose of the Dr. Bruce Hutchinson. We're coming back to talk about Home Alone,
it's a
breaking that
good one.
movie down, and maybe it's not as perfect as you might think.
Yeah,
Spoilers. But before we end the year with that, our normal podcast, let's end, Daniel. What's the top 3? We talked about this,
yeah.
not favorite movies, not even favorite TV shows. Like, let's do both. Like, just top 3 favorite viewing experiences. Doesn't have to be 2023. Give them to me now. Give them to me fast.
Yeah, well, I mean, Succession is immediately on there for me, just because
Mm.
we started it about a month and a half ago. We've been blazing
Wow.
through it. Started back where we had stopped in season 1. So Succession is absolutely on there for me. Oppenheimer I think any year we get a Nolan, it's just, I mean,
Good movie.
it's a fantastic movie. And I think, again, my biggest credit to it, and I think Nolan, even enunciates this recently. It's like, it's a talking movie that's 3 hours long, half in black and white. It's all done in dialogue, and yet I found it incredibly gripping and incredibly enjoyable. And I think that is difficult to do. And so I think that's just a credit to the filmmaking. Like, that's just because of the stylistic choices that he makes and how he tells his stories that just make it invigorating, even though what's on screen isn't necessarily like jaw dropping at any point,
Right.
So Oppenheimer is absolutely there. Man, I mean, watching on screens, I think, it's not necessarily like maybe a critically acclaimed movie. It's a movie I loved, but I really enjoyed The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent this year as well. Me and my wife watched that. The Nicolas Cage,
Pedro
Pascal, yes, was fantastic. And so it's just a funny movie that's lighthearted, that doesn't take itself too seriously. In fact, I think it takes itself hilariously not seriously in a way that just really works for me. Those are the three. I mean, I think, it's been a weird year. There's been not a lot of Marvel that has been hot off the press or super amazing.
Guardians 3 was pretty good.
No, it was Guardians 3. And I'll also throw out Andor. I mean, that was this year, right?
I think so, yeah.
Like, Andor was incredible, and I still think that's up there too. I mean, that's, again, I think that has the best dialogue, or at least monologues, that have ever been written in Star Wars. 2 of them in one season. I think Andy Serkis's one, and then Skarsgård. It's not Bill, but it's
is it Alex? Maybe it's Alex.
It's the oldest one. It's the father.
Yeah.
The eldest Skarsgård. That I make my mind a sunless place. It's just like, I just got shivers thinking about it, because to me it's like Shakespearean. It's like, that feels like something that would be in a Shakespearean play, but it's in a Star Wars TV show, and it's just delivered just mouth-wateringly perfect.
Viewership or anything, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, so that's my list. I kind of said 4, but
no. I didn't even, honestly. I asked you this to prepare for this question yesterday, and I didn't even do it. I didn't even think about it.
Sure.
But I mean, it's like, I forgot Succession was out this year, which was earlier this year for me.
I've only watched one of the episodes that have came out this year. We've only started season 4, episode 1. So, like, technically, I'm watching the episodes that came out this year, but I'm mostly talking about seasons 1, 2, and 3. So far.
Yeah.
That's what I've
Well,
watched.
yeah, I believe I finished 3 last year.
Sure.
And then I think, and I was watching 4 as it was going. I might have been watching 3 as it was going too. I don't remember, but yeah, I mean, Succession had me, every week I was like, oh, it's Succession this week.
Was Stranger Things season 4 this year too?
That was last
the
year.
latest season? Okay.
That was last year. That was last summer. That's when I did all 4 seasons.
That's right. That's when you caught up.
Yeah, first time.
Decided to like it.
Decided to like it finally. You got me, Stranger Things. Took you 4 seasons, but you got me. Yeah. So I mean, I'll get mine. I'll give you Succession. Succession, maybe my top 3. Maybe, I don't know. I need to think about it. I'm going to say Oppenheimer first of all.
Yeah.
That's my favorite movie of the year. Again, for all the reasons you said. And I would love to break that one down with Bruce. I think that, I don't know. I want to know. I want to know, first of all, does Bruce like the movie? Just curious. But I love Super Mario Brothers, mainly because of the ending.
Sure.
Just the ending slaps for me. And Spider-Verse was incredible on a technical level.
Damn, that's in there too. I forgot about Spider-Verse.
It's just the last 10 minutes that kind of make it not 11 out of 10 for me.
Sure.
And so, like, right now it's like a 9.5 out of 10.
Sure.
Which the first one was also a 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I got to think more about it.
And I will say, like, I haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon. You know what I mean? There are some.
It's not.
Hey, I mean, I'll throw Invincible season 2 part 1 in there as well. I mean, that's been incredible.
I've loved it. Yeah.
It just feels like I haven't gotten enough for it to be like maybe in the top picks, but it is. It's some of the best TV I've seen on screen. And
Yeah.
Spider-Verse is up there for me too. I mean, you're right. I never, ever since Pirates of the Caribbean 2, I have fervently hated when movies end on a cliffhanger. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
fine with it for TV shows, but movies, no. And so I agree on that. But at the same time, in terms of just like the experience, it's one of the top experiences I've
Yeah.
had looking at a screen this year. Right.
I've got two things. One, I think my third spot, if well, I'll give it to Succession just for funsies. I don't, maybe there's
Sure.
a better one than that. I'll do Succession, Oppenheimer, and my third spot will be even further back from everybody. Me and Kenley watched all of Lost in the last couple months, from episode one
Oh,
to the
really?
end, 121
Had you
episodes.
watched the entire thing before? Like every
Oh, yeah,
episode? Okay.
I watched it 10 years ago. And watching it again,
Was it her first time?
her first time any of it. And so for me, getting to experience it with her, and then
Yeah.
also just being reminded of like, oh yeah, this is one of the greatest TV shows of all time, even with that kind of format.
It feels like one of the first like bingiest TV shows, right? And it didn't
So
come out in the
good.
world of binging. In fact, it did kind of like I remember we used to when we had my family had Netflix before they were streaming, right? We used to rent the mail in DVDs, and you could rent seasons of Lost that way. And I think we watched at least part of it that way. But no, it is. I mean, it's like one of the first shows that I can remember where the end of every episode forces you to watch the next one. Like you just
Yeah.
can't not watch one more. And like I've told this story before, but like the first 3 months of our marriage, we got married
hmm
in 2012, or sorry, 2011, and no, 2012. Don't listen to this episode, Catherine. We got married in 2012, and we lived the first 3 months. We didn't have jobs the first 3 months of marriage, and we lived off all the gift cards and money we received from getting married, and
And
just
Lost.
watched Lost. But we would go to Hastings, and we'd rent like one of the discs of the season, which comes with like 4 episodes. We'd watch them
hmm
all that night, return it the next day, and get the rebate that you got with Hastings, or if you
hmm
took the rental back early, they'd like comp you whatever the price was for the extra days, and then use
Yeah.
that money to rent the next one.
Sounds
And like
amazing.
that was I think we actually owned season 7 because like, or the last season, because they didn't have it, so we didn't have it for rent, so we just bought it. So I think we had like one full season of Lost. But yeah, man, I mean, just
No,
in terms of
the only one I ever, well, I think I bought them. I think season 7 was coming out or fixing
yeah,
to come out. And I was like, I'm going to try this show. And we would go to Best Buy. We live in Batesville, a 2 hour drive to Best Buy. And I would go in there and I'd grab a new season and I would
yeah,
just watch them. And then I kept buying new season. And finally, I caught up to the show. And then, like, the week I caught
yeah,
up, season 7 dropped on DVD. So, anyway,
yeah, yeah.
but no, I mean, it's fantastic. And
I'm guessing
it's
Kimberly
only,
loved it.
she loved it. Yeah, she liked the ending actually with me. I was
I do.
bawling at the end, of course.
I like the ending. I mean,
I think it's great.
it's
I don't
it
know how you
works.
don't like
It
it. Yeah,
works
it totally
great. I mean,
works.
listen, the first 3, maybe 4 seasons are the peak. Like I mean, I think it peaks at Not Penny's Boat. To me, that's like still maybe the most memorable episode, and just one of the most tragic. Just Charlie dying is horrible.
So it's so good.
And then, but I think no, I mean it's one of the first earliest shows that I can remember that just does such a long. It takes its time developing its characters, right? You're gonna like hate half of the characters for the first half of the first season until you
I
get to
told
their
Kimberly,
episode where it goes back and it kind of explains their
yeah,
backstory, and then you like them. You know what I mean? It's like it happens with Sawyer, happens with Kate, happens with Jen. It happens with like all these major characters, and then like by the end of that season, they're your favorite character, and you hated them like
I told
in
Kimberly, I
episodes
said,
earlier.
yeah, 100%. I said, look, I said, there's people you're not gonna like in this show, but by the end of it, I'm gonna ask you who's your favorite
Yeah, right,
character.
right, right,
And I think episode 1 or 2, she's like, I fucking hate Sawyer.
right.
And
Yeah, he's a
I was like,
dick.
okay. And then I was like, at the end, I said, who's your favorite character? She said, probably Sawyer. And I said, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
I
he's
agree.
great.
And
Yeah, he's
it's great
great.
like when they go to when they like go back in time to the 70s for like an entire season, and
It's my
like him and
favorite example of time
Juliet.
travel is the Quan theory, which is what's happen's happened. It's my favorite
Yeah.
example of time travel.
No, yeah, it's
Yeah, it's great.
fantastic.
If you
It's
haven't watched
fantastic.
it, we gave you a lot of spoilers just then, but I would still watch it. It's the only show or at least it's the first show that showed me that sometimes the journey is more important than the end.
Yeah,
I happen to like the
absolutely.
end, but the journey is just as important or more
Yeah, I
important in
mean,
that
I will
case.
say that like not every explanation just works perfectly for me.
No, no, no,
You know,
no, no.
there's certain parts of it, especially when it kind of dips into like the spiritual, supernatural, that I'm like, okay, I get it. It's not my favorite, but okay, you know what I mean. But it just in terms of suspense and just in terms of like your jaw dropping, like there's just it consistently delivers that, like just like
Well,
from
as we
that
were
first
watching it,
episode where Jack looks over and you just see this like guy in a full suit just standing on the beach, like watching them, and it has that music cue, and it's just like, you know, like they did the perfect thing where like every episode had this like really nice like montage music. They even like use like a
they
Coldplay song. I
killed
think they use
they kill
the
montages.
Scientist, like the play, and then the last 10 seconds it's like the music sours and
Yeah.
something foreboding happens, you know what I mean? Oof.
What a great show.
Yeah.
What a great show.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad we talked about that. Again, I'm not sure I gave a great answer on mine.
Yeah.
It's still evolving. I don't know my top
Sure.
favorite movies of the year are yet. Maybe it's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Daniel. Maybe it's
You
that.
haven't seen it yet, so you don't
I
know.
haven't seen it. Could be the best movie ever made. Oppenheimer, who? Anyway, how can our listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail and let us know what you thought of this year in terms of things you watched on a screen. There's a lot of great options. I do think, you know, there's an argument that we had a stronger year on TV than we did in movies. You know what I mean? Even though, you know, the tippy top of the movies, we got a new Scorsese, we got a new Nolan. You know what I mean? There's definitely like amazing movies that came out, but I also feel like there wasn't a ton of great movies that came out necessarily. Like it felt like there
Well,
was just
that reminds me.
lower year.
That reminds me not to stop your
Go
plug.
ahead.
There's one movie that I think you will absolutely love
Mm,
that I don't think you've seen yet.
mm,
I have it right here. I just got it in the mail, and it was made for Daniel Wingfield, I think.
okay.
It's TMNT.
Is that the Seth
Um,
Rogen one?
it's the Mutant Mayhem Seth Rogen
Okay.
one, and
Okay.
you like hip hop, you like that,
Yeah.
you would love this movie, and
Okay.
it's so well done, and it's unique animation style.
Yeah.
It's got some heartstrings, but it's funny as hell, and it's not even my top five of the year, and it's you love it.
I'd
Yeah, I'm
love
not
to. I
sure
mean,
you.
I remember renting TMNT cartoon VHSs, you know, as a
Yeah,
kid to
if you
watch at
like
home. So
TMNT, and then
yeah,
just based on what I know your personality, you're going to love that movie. It'll be your
I'd love
top
to.
five of the year. I know it
Yeah.
will be.
Yeah. No, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So anyway, what did you like that came on screens this year? Are there any TV shows that we didn't hit, or do you disagree with us on any of our takes? Are there any movies that we haven't mentioned that you think deserve a mention? Cough if it's Barbie, no, cough. But let us know, bit.ly/241 mail.
Ask me what my least favorite experience of the year was watching a movie.
What was your least favorite experience?
It was Barbie. Also, everyone, I
Really?
have Mandalorian season 1 and season 2 on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Pretty dope.
I will say, I think Barbie is a really, actually fantastically made movie, directed, acted, all of that. I just think it comes to all the wrong conclusions at the end.
It's
And then
got
therefore, like,
amazing production design. It's got a beautiful
yes.
score. It's got great sound effects. The
It's just
acting's
like
phenomenal.
the themes undercut that, unfortunately, for like the conclusions to their themes, like the whatever
Yeah.
like the takeaway idea
terrible.
is undercut so much of what I think that movie is amazing at, that it ended up being a very frustrating movie for me. I
Yeah,
had a great time
that's why I don't like it.
95% of the way there. It's just like when they wrapped things up, I was like, ew, they didn't wrap these
Yep.
things up very well.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I agree. And I think it's what's frustrating for me too is maybe we should do a pod on that one, but I think
Man, we might go viral for all the wrong reasons.
we might get canceled for that one. But I just think narratively it's so problematic. Not even taking into account its issues in terms of what it's talking about, just on a movie level, it doesn't make any sense and doesn't work. I was so
Yeah.
frustrated by because
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be great. Like I thought
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is the highest gross movie of the year for a reason, $1.4 billion.
Right.
And then that's why it's most frustrating for me because I watched it. I was like,
Sure.
oh, this is not
Well,
what
and I
everyone's
think,
telling
and
me
to
it
be
is.
fair, the thing that people exclaim about. I mean, honestly, I remember there being some hubbub about, oh man, it's such a interesting movie. Like, you know, it's talking about social issues and it has these great commentary. Most of, I think, what people loved about it was the nostalgia. Was the it's a Barbie movie. It's you know, banking on all the things that we grew up on, especially our generation and the girls that grew up on, of like what was iconic about being a little girl and having Barbies. And I do think it attempts to tackle some very complex, interesting ideas at a social level. I just think at the end of the day, it takes the lowest road possible in terms of how it responds to those things. And it could have so easily taken the high road and been like an amazing, in my opinion, feminist movie, an amazing movie that like illustrates the problems and also is like an example of like a really thoughtful and nuanced response to it, and it just took the most simple, uninteresting versions of those things. And so, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure it's gonna get, at this point, I'm expecting a Barbie franchise, but then I'm also expecting like, I mean, Mattel seems to be taking this as a sign that they should make every one of their toys into a movie franchise. So who knows what the implications of Barbie success will be? This could be the beginning of the next line of Toy Soldiers movies or something. I don't know.
That line of thinking was always inevitable
Do you
upon
remember?
success.
Did you one a movie that was a big favorite of mine as a kid was The Indian in the Cupboard?
Love
Cupboard.
that movie, dude. And when he
Yeah.
opens it up, dude, and they have Darth Vader down there fighting, it's
Oh
fucking
yeah. Which
phenomenal.
I'm still like, did Disney make that movie? Is that how they had those rights? I don't even know.
I think it's on Disney Plus.
Okay. That would make sense. Anyway, well, they didn't have them at the time because they didn't own Darth Vader at the time. But anyway.
George was a whore for money
Oh yeah.
with Star Wars.
With licensing.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
So
Anyway, is this gonna restart the Indian in the Cupboard, you know, franchise because it's just all about toys coming to life? I don't know. But
I don't know either.
We'll have to see.
It's fascinating.
Yes.
Never thought about that. Anyway, listeners, if you can't find us at our bit.ly, you can always find us in the comments section below. YouTube.com/241studios. It's the best place. Go there right now, subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and we will probably not respond to your comment. Next week, everyone, Home Alone for Christmas. Then we'll see you in 2024 as we approach our 5-year anniversary. And of course, episode 200 of Podcast 2 for 1. We've already discussed what our episode 200 will be. In my opinion, I think we've discussed it, and I can't wait to.
Yeah, because I'm like, did we?
I'll tell you after. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield,
and we have spoken.